Honorable members, let us pray. Almighty God, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor and blessings as your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to leadership positions in this republic. We seek guidance to treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you have committed to our charge. Amen. Good morning, honorable members, and welcome to this morning session of Wednesday, 26th April 2023. Clerk, order of business.
Order number 1, administration of oath.
Next.
Order number 2, communication from the chair.
Honorable members, I have one communication to make to the House that we are in receipt of third generation Kericho County Integrated Development Plan 2023-2027 from the CECM Finance and Economic Planning and Head of County Treasury, the Honorable Leonard Kipkoech Ngetich. Of course, as you know, every county government is supposed to prepare a development plan in accordance with Article 220 of the Constitution, as well as also the County Government Act Section 108 stipulates that there shall be a 5-year county integrated development plan for each county that outlines the plan, programs, and projects to be implemented within the county, and no other public funds shall be appropriated outside the plan. Honorable members, this is a very critical document, as you all know, and all the honorable members of the County Assembly, the elected ones, need to give keen attention. This CIDP plan 2023-2027 stands committed to the Committee on Finance and Economic Planning, and we give them 14 days to table the report back. Is the chairman for finance in the House? Vice Chair, the Honorable Rogan. The Vice Chair for Finance and Economic Planning? Or any member? All right, thank you so much. Please note the deadlines because this ought to have been done a while ago. Thank you so much, Clerk. Next order.
Order number 3, messages.
Next.
Order number 4, petitions.
Next.
Order number 5, papers.
Next.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Next.
Order number 7, statements.
Honorable members, we have a report on a statement raised by Honorable Fancy Korir, and this the chairperson for Trade and Industrialization Committee. Order, the Honorable, that is Martin. Yes, please give the report. To table the report to the House. Honorable Majority, is everything okay? All right, thank you. So proceed, Honorable Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me this opportunity. Table a report that was sought by the Honorable Member, Honorable Fancy Korir. This is the report that was done by the Committee on Trade and Industrialization, chaired by myself. Vice Chair is Jessica Chemweno, Honorable Jessica Chemweno, Honorable Francis Terer Member, Honorable Lily Sirma, member. Honorable Richard Langat, member. Honorable Vincent Koskei, member. Honorable Peter Kemoy, member. Honorable Winnie Langat, member. Honorable Kiprotich Rogony, member. On 9th November 2022, Honorable Fancy Kori raised a statement in the floor of the House. We have, Mr. Speaker, we have the annexures, and I believe every member, honorable member, has the annexure. And the statement entailed the following. 1, if the county was aware of illicit brew consumption within and outside Kericho. 2, steps the Department of Trade was undertaking to remedy the same. And the status 3, the status of implementation of Kericho County Alcoholic Drinks Control Act 2014. 2.1, committal to Committee on Trade, Industrialization, Cooperative Management, Tourism and Wildlife. The statement was raised. The statement raised was committed to Trade, Industrialization, Tourism and Wildlife Committee on 9th November 2022 for further inquiry and reporting to the House. The County Executive Committee member in charge of Trade, Industrialization, Cooperative Management, Tourism and Wildlife responded to the statement raised on 9th November 2022 via a letter referenced as Ref number KEC/LQR/Volume 4/113 dated 16th November 2022. We have the annexures, Annexure C, Annexure 2. That is the response from the County Executive Committee member in charge of Trade, Industrialization, Cooperative Management, Tourism, and Wildlife. Mr. Speaker, sir, I stand to be guided by you whether I'll go through this, the report or the annexure from the County Executive Committee member. Yes, I believe honorable members have the annexures. I don't know whether I'll go direct to the committee observations.
Honorable Martin, I think you only go to the relevant section which addresses the questions or statement raised by the honorable member. Of course, the annexures, I want to believe everyone has that this report, and therefore you can just summarize.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for your guidance. So let me go to 3.0. That is committee observations. As per the County Executive Committee member in charge of Trade, Industrialization, Cooperative Management, Tourism and Wildlife response to statement sought, the Committee on Trade, Industrialization, Cooperative Management, Tourism and Wildlife made the following observations. That 1, the county was aware of the illicit brew consumption within and outside Kericho. 2, the regulation of this illicit brew is not under the purview of the Kericho County Alcoholic Drinks Act 2014, as the Act only regulates manufactured liquor approved by the Kenya Bureau of Standards, KEBS, and labeled with KEBS standardization marks. However, the department liaises and works with the Office of the County Commissioner, where the function lies to assist in mitigating the effects of illicit brew. And 3, the status of implementation of Kericho County Alcoholic Drinks Control Act 2014 is as follows. A. Administration. Part 2, 4.1 of the Act envisages the establishment of the County Alcoholic Drinks Department that shall be an office in the county public service. The department was established and its current members, as stipulated in Part 2, 4, 3 are composed of 1. Chairperson, who shall be the executive member; 2. Chief officer, who shall be the secretary; 3. Research officer; 4. Finance officer; 5. Licensing officer; and 6. Program officer. B. Rehabilitation facilities and programs. Kericho County government has not established a rehabilitation center of its own, but the discussions are ongoing with the national government that will culminate into an MOU on the utilization of Nyagacho Rehab Center for the purposes of rehabilitating people dependent on alcoholic drinks, and the department has also requested for additional funds from finance to build a county rehabilitation center. The same has been captured as a proposal in the third generation county integrated development plan, CIDP 3. Mr. Speaker, C. Establishment of the fund. There is established a fund known as the Kericho County Alcoholic Drinks Control Fund, with the following details. Fund name, Kericho County Alcoholic Drinks Control Fund. Bank name, Equity Bank. Account number 028026 3621 889. Bank balances as at 15th November 2022 was 23,000 Kenya shillings. D. Sub-County Alcoholic Drinks Regulation Committee. The Sub-County Alcoholic Drinks Regulation Committee was established as stipulated in Part 2, 9, 1, and 4 in each of the 6 sub-counties, and they are composed of 1. Sub-County Administrator, who is the chairperson; 2. The Sub-County Public Health Officer; 3. The Officer Commanding Police, Kenya Police Services at the sub-county. 4. The Officer Commanding Kenya Administration Police Services at the sub-county. 5. One officer responsible for coordination of national government functions in the sub-county. 6. The officer responsible for physical planning in the sub-county. 7. 3 residents of the sub-county appointed by the executive member. Mr. Speaker, E. County Alcoholic Drinks Review Committee. The County Alcoholic Drinks Review Committee was established as stipulated in Part 2, 10.1 and 2, and is composed of 1. Chairperson, who shall be the executive member; 2. Chief officer, who shall be the secretary; 3. Research officer; 4. Finance officer; 5. Program officer. Mr. Speaker, sir. F. Kericho County Alcoholic Drinks Control Enforcement Coordinating Committee. Kericho County Alcoholic Drinks Control Enforcement Coordinating Committee was established as stipulated in Part 751, 1 and 2, and is composed of 1. The chief officer, who shall be the chairperson of the committee; 1 authorized officer appointed under Section 50. The officer 3. The officer responsible for coordination of national government functions in the county. 4. The county public health officer. 5. The officer in charge of Kenya Police Services in the county. 6. The officer in charge of administration police services in the county. 7. Officer appointed by Kenya Bureau of Standards. 8. One person appointed by Anti-Counterfeit Agency. 9. One officer appointed by Department of Weights and Measures. And 10. Any other officers as the governor may designate with the approval of the county assembly. Mr. Speaker, G. revenue stock expenditure report. The following table summarizes the revenue stock expenditure for the last 7 years. Mr. Speaker, sir, this is that is the table that shows and summarizes the expenditure, stock revenue, and Mr. Speaker, sir, I also like to, because we have the honorable members have this report, Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to request that may I continue with I then, because we have this report with each and every honorable member, Mr. Speaker, sir. So that is the report that is there. And Mr. Speaker, sir, let me continue with Mr. Speaker, sir. Thank you. We have the regulations. Then regulations were made for better carrying out of the objectives of the Kericho County Alcoholic Drinks Act 2014 by the executive member. We have J, proposed amendments. The department, together with the chairpersons of the sub-county alcoholic drinks regulations, had joint sittings to discuss on the following amendments to the Kericho County Alcoholic Drinks Act 2014. 1. Establishment of a liquor electorate. 2. Change legal licensing from calendar year to financial year for better coordination and alignment to government calendar. 3. Introduce a general fine where no fine is prescribed. 4. Make it mandatory for the governor to establish the County Alcoholic Drink Control Enforcement Coordinating Committee instead of it being optional as currently captured. 5. Mr. Speaker, introduce a restaurant alcoholic drink license that shall operate at any time of the day. 6. Mr. Speaker, establishment of rehabilitation facilities in select health centers instead of each ward. And 7. Abolishing the membership of the Kenya Administration Police Services at the sub-county committee level, since they are now merged with the Kenya Police. Mr. Speaker, K, challenges. There have been several challenges encountered in the course of implementing the Kericho County Alcoholic Drinks Act 2014, which include 1. Proliferation of illegal brew not covered by the Act. 2. Selling of adulterated liquor. 3. Inadequate logistics. And 4, Mr. Speaker, waste disposal. Conclusion. Upon conclusion of stakeholder engagement, the department will be forwarding the proposed amendments to the County Alcoholic Drinks Act 2014 to the County Assembly for consideration. Mr. Speaker, the committee further observed that A, the County Executive Committee member in charge of finance and economic planning, being the administrator of the Kericho County Alcoholic Drink Fund, has not been submitting to the County Assembly quarterly reports and financial statements as required by Section 166 of Public Finance Management Act 2012, which in turn informed the County Assembly on status and challenges experienced in collection of alcoholic drinks fund and implementation of the Kericho County Alcoholic Drinks Act 2014. Mr. Speaker, sir, B, the provision of the Kericho County Alcoholic Drinks Act 2014 has not been fully implemented on various financial years. An alcoholic drinks fund, which is wholly owned by the Kericho County government, has been declining since the implementation of the provisions of the Kericho County Alcoholic Drinks Act 2014. Mr. Speaker, C, the expenditure of the Kericho County Alcoholic Drinks Fund for the last 7 years has been increasing, whereas the revenue has been decreasing. And D, Mr. Speaker, the expenditure on the Kericho County Alcoholic Drinks Fund for the financial year 2016-2017 and 2018-2019 have same figure of 3,807,460. Mr. Speaker, sir, on committee recommendations, the committee recommends that A, the county executive committee members in charge of finance and economic planning and trade, industrialization, cooperative management, tourism, and wildlife submit to the county assembly quarterly reports and financial statements on the Kericho County Alcoholic Drinks Fund as required by Section 166 of the Public Finance Management Act 2012. Mr. Speaker, sir, the county executive committee members in charge of finance and economic planning and trade, industrialization, cooperative management, tourism, and wildlife implement the provisions of the Kericho County Alcoholic Drinks Act 2014 and the Kericho County Alcoholic Drinks Fund on revenue collection measures so as to achieve the projected revenue. Mr. Speaker, sir, C, the county executive committee members in charge of finance and economic planning and trade, industrialization, cooperative management, tourism and wildlife budget for automation of alcoholic drinks for ease of revenue collection. Mr. Speaker, sir, D, that the implementer of the Kericho County Alcoholic Drinks Act 2014 and the administrator of the Kericho County Alcoholic Drinks Fund operate on the existing legal framework on revenue collection, expenditure, and remittance to county revenue fund account. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Martin, for the report on statement raised by Honorable Fancy Korir. And at this point, I will give stage to the Honorable Fancy Korir, your comment on whether the response to your statement as tabled by the Honorable Martin, whether you are satisfied or not.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me this chance. I think the report which has been given by Honorable Martin is very elaborate, and unless these things are implemented is the time I will say I'm satisfied. Otherwise, it's quite good, and I was wondering where the Alcoholic Drink Act has not been implemented well. One is the revenue collection, which we are seeing it is being collected very well, but the usage, the expenditure is not feasible, because for sure in Kericho County, our people, our brothers and our husbands are dying because of this alcohol, and we should be having a rehabilitation center. And I know the lion's share should go to rehabilitation center so that our people and our children are rehabilitated so that they come back to their lives. Otherwise, it is a good report, and I seek the department to automate the collection of revenue on the same. Otherwise, I'm satisfied. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Okay. At this point in time, I want to give to a few honorable members just to make one or two contributions on this report. The Honorable Cheriot Bet.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to also represent the people of Ainamoi, Mr. Speaker, because we also have these alcohol in my place, Mr. Speaker, and they are not regulated at all. Mr. Speaker, as far as I am thanking the committee for a job well done, Mr. Speaker, but going by the time when this statement was raised, Mr. Speaker, the statement was raised on the 9th day of November 2022. And the department, and that is why, Mr. Speaker, sometimes you allow these people to read from up there, because the statement was raised on 9th, and the letter was written to the department, and the department responded immediately on 16th November. The letter went there on 9th, but they responded a week later, 16th of November. But now the committee is tabling this report, Mr. Speaker, on 26th of April, 5 months down the line, Mr. Speaker. So in this case, Mr. Speaker, I think the committee led by the Honorable Martin, Mr. Speaker, is a lazy committee, because why should you respond 5 months after a statement was sought, Mr. Speaker? It beats logic. So we
unless we can confirm, by referring
Mr. Speaker, facts are bare, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Martin, the chairperson has something to say about it. Please.
Is it a point of order, Mr. Speaker? I need not to be informed, Mr. Speaker. So you will allow me to continue, because I have all the information. So thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I was just seeing the dates when this statement was raised, Mr. Speaker, because they say, justice delayed, Mr. Speaker, is justice denied. So you are denying the Honorable Fancy an opportunity to get the response of this statement, Mr. Speaker. But however, Mr. Speaker, I must thank the committee, because at least they did a comprehensive work, and now that we have the report. Mr. Speaker, of great importance, Mr. Speaker, is great concern, is, Mr. Speaker, that when you look at those tabulation, the expenses are rising up every other year, and the revenue comes down, Mr. Speaker. So it seems there is something wrong with these committees, Mr. Speaker. They are spending a lot of funds, and yet the revenues that is being collected is decreasing every other year, Mr. Speaker. And in essence, when you spend more, you get more revenue, Mr. Speaker. So I think the committee that is running this alcoholic drink act, Mr. Speaker, needs to up their game, Mr. Speaker. Number two, Mr. Speaker, this alcoholic drink act, Mr. Speaker, there is a fund, and the function of that fund, Mr. Speaker, is one, to rehabilitate those drunkards, Mr. Speaker. But we have not been getting any revenue from these people, Mr. Speaker. So we expected even that this fund be used to rehabilitate at least 1 or 2 rehabilitation centers, Mr. Speaker. But 7 years down the line, Mr. Speaker, there is no rehabilitation that has taken place, Mr. Speaker. In fact, the other day, Mr. Speaker, I have a good friend of mine, a former MCA, Mr. Speaker. He was taken for rehabilitation. He's in Eldoret. I do not want to say the name, Mr. Speaker, because he's an honorable member serving in the First County Assembly, but he was taken to a rehabilitation center in Eldoret, Mr. Speaker. And I know even some of us here, Mr. Speaker, maybe they are customers in future, Mr. Speaker. So we need to have a rehabilitation center within our county, Mr. Speaker, so that it will assist our friends, Mr. Speaker. I am a son of a reverend, Mr. Speaker, and I don't think maybe we'll go that direction, but at least we need to have this rehabilitation, because I have people in Ainamoi who need to be rehabilitated, Mr. Speaker. So we may not want to take them long distances, while we have a fund that is majorly created to have such a rehabilitation center, Mr. Speaker, within our county. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, all these reports that we are tabling, Mr. Speaker, has a recommendation or an observation that the department do not submit the quarterly reports to the county assembly, Mr. Speaker. I think this is a problem that is persistent, Mr. Speaker. And as I said yesterday, Mr. Speaker, you were the CEC in charge of finance previously, and you used to submit every other quarter the financial statement, Mr. Speaker. So what is wrong with the current CEC, Mr. Speaker? Because they need, these are constitutional requirements, Mr. Speaker, that by the end of every quarter, they must furnish the committee and ultimately the county assembly with the quarterly report, Mr. Speaker, because that is the oversight. So we need to, and I want to also request the leadership, that is the leadership of the county assembly, especially led by the leader of majority party, the Honorable Philip Rono, Mr. Speaker, that he is the bridge between the county assembly and the county executive, Mr. Speaker. I know he is a friend to those people, and those people are also our friends. So kindly inform them these are constitutional requirements that we need to get those quarter reports. It will assist us, Mr. Speaker, in doing our oversight, for example, Mr. Speaker. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, the report is good. We are only waiting for the implementation of some of these recommendations. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Chediabet, for that contribution. Honorable Rogoin, and then I'll give to the Honorable Maritim.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to also contribute on this report. First, I can confirm that indeed I'm a member of this committee, Mr. Speaker. It took time for us to submit this report for a few reasons. Remember, at one point, the Honorable Francis Terrell was the chair, and midway, things changed. Some of the committee members also left the committee to other committees. But nonetheless, we have the report with us here, Mr. Speaker. In one of the undertakings by the Committee of Finance and Economic Planning, when we were checking on the revenues that we get as a county, we made an impromptu to some of the pubs within Roret Market. And Mr. Speaker, I can confirm that as a county government, this report came timely because in those business setups, the county government has not to date collected a single coin from the clubs. It's unfortunate, and indeed we want to be heard as a committee because we need to get what this county needs for us to proceed. Mr. Speaker, the shocking thing that we found out as a committee is, and my honorable members actually noted out, the revenues, the expenditure, and then what is left. If you look at that schedule, it looks the committee that was put in place seems to be using every single coin that comes from these the revenues that we are getting from the licensing, because initially the revenues used to be 12 million, for example, in 2015. The expenditure is around 2 million. But now in 2022, the revenues and the expenditure seems to be matching. We do not know what's happening. Are they spending at source, and what are they doing? That is what we were able to note. And then number two, Mr. Speaker, I've also had chance to look at the Constitution. As much as we say the management or the dealing with the illegal, the illicit brew is domiciled in the national government. That is the county commissioner's office. But look at the Constitution again, Mr. Speaker, and this now calls for this House to look seriously into the functions that we have. If you look at the national functions, it has almost zero function touching on legal licensing. It is a squarely county function. But then the problem, I've also had chance, Mr. Speaker, to look at the Constitution. The provincial administration, what we now call the county commissioners administration, was supposed to have been phased out 3 years from the inception of the promulgation of the Constitution. But you know, as it is, the new the other administration enhanced it. It changed the name. Even when there was a court case and the court ruled in favor of the public, they still went on to enhance that office. Mr. Speaker, I urge this House, let us put in place a legislation that will see to it that legal licensing and illicit brews are squarely dealt by the county government of Kericho, if we must save the number of youths that we've lost. Mr. Speaker, a while ago, a member of this house, one of our colleagues, actually told us that we are losing so many young men through the illicit brews. Mr. Speaker, there is something that we have to do. And I must appreciate the recommendation that this report the committee has given, because it will go a long way if we implemented them to checking these illicit brews, and it will also help us to properly check the executive over the manner in which they are issuing legal licensing. Mr. Speaker, I really appreciate the recommendations this committee gave, and I wish the executive will go towards implementing them for us to see the change that we also expect, and for us to get the matched in the revenues from the legal licensing that has been messed up in the previous years. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Maritim.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to comment on the committee on the work done. I say they did a very good work, but my question is the statement raised by Honorable Fancy Korir, that is Roman 1. If the county was aware of illicit brew consumption within and outside Kericho County, is it within, what is Kericho? Is it county, Kericho County or Kericho Town? So I need some clarity from Honorable Fancy Korir. Then again, Mr. Speaker, alcohol taking is an option. It's not a must that you must take alcohol. So I want to congratulate Honorable Cheriot Bet and the entire Ainamoi for agitating for rehabilitation in Kericho County. I can see from the table they are leading with 147 joints, Mr. Speaker, sir. So I know Cheriot Bet is giving us some revenue. Thank you, Ainamoi members. And I also want to encourage Kipkelian West to do the same. I can see you are after 3 joints, and we need revenue in our county.
Order, honorable members. Yes, let's allow the honorable member to proceed.
Yes, that's why I'm encouraging honorable majority to just work hard.
Order, honorable member. Are you encouraging the honorable majority to drink or?
No, to open more, to encourage people from the area to open more joints, but legal. Thank you. We need revenue in our county. Thank you very much.
Okay, order. Honorable Irene.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me this chance. I think the honorable member from Chepseon should have been out of order because he's encouraging the same, and I think let me not continue first.
Honorable Maritim, what is it? Point of order, Irene. Honorable Irene.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I wanted to encourage more revenue collection in our county through legal brews, legal licenses to legal joints, not illicit. So the members should be aware.
Proceed, Honorable Irene.
Thank you for that point of information. Okay, let me thank the Committee on Trade for this elaborate...
Order, honorable members, let us consult.
For this elaborate report that has been produced over quite a long time. I think I have to thank the chair for also giving us this report, for tabling this report in the floor of the House. Now the big question is the implementation of the same. So we know that back at our different wards, people are really suffering. In as much as we are encouraging the legal alcohol, or the ones that are legal, we also have quite a number of people who are operating illegal businesses, that is to do with illicit brews. We have illicit brews from our neighboring counties, which is known to all of us. We are not getting revenue or out of it. It is only detrimental to the health of our people. So the county government, we have a great role to play as far as the health of our youth is concerned. The people who are greatly affected by the illicit brews are our young people, and most of the time, the women outside there, they have been whispering to me, being the chair women caucus, that there are a lot of complaints from our women that our men are not performing anymore. Number two, the number of babies being born nowadays, it is below the expected number.
Order, yeah.
And
order honorable members. Let's give the honorable.
That one now, it is very dangerous to our county, population-wise and health-wise. And as much as we need to promote the.
Yes, the honorable.
Okay. Is it a point of information or point of order?
Order, honorable Irene. So maybe you take your seat. And
you know, the honorable member, Mr. Speaker, has alluded that the men outside there, Mr. Speaker, you know we are also men and we are outside. Is it that the women, our women, Mr. Speaker, are complaining that we do not rise to the occasion? Is it the honorable members here? Because I was seeing one of my friend, and I was telling him, is it you? So is it the MCAs or the members of the community outside there, Mr. Speaker? We need to know.
And before Honorable Irene, maybe you take your seat first. Before I give to, I can see the hand of Honorable Amos Spirit. But you know, honorable members, of course, when you mention about performance and also rising to the occasion, honorable members, these are, you know, as I always remind you, you've got to substantiate all these things. You know, it should be on the factual. Unless you've got experience on the same, and it is linked to this report, then of course it will be admissible in this house. So even the Honorable Cheriot, who is a ranking member, has also alluded to rising to the occasion. Unless we define performance and rising to the occasion, then it can be really clarified. Honorable Amos Birir, is it point of order or? I want to believe it's a point of order, because another speaker, I will not.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this chance you have given me.
Order, Honorable Amos Birir. Are you on point of order or you want to contribute?
I want to contribute.
Then order first. Order, Honorable Amos Birir. You are out of order.
My contribution is...
Order, honorable members. Honorable Amos Birir, I'll give you an opportunity. Let's...
Actually...
Order.
Why are you laughing at me?
Order, Honorable Amos Birir. I will give you an opportunity. Let's, Honorable Irene, finish the submission first. And then I will... I'll call you to come and... let's
thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Order, honorable members. Let's consult in low tones.
So I think when I mentioned performance, I also talked of the number of babies being born. So I think that statement was in line with the other one. So it is to do with the performance in our beds back at home. So, and
including
I'm yet even to receive complaints, maybe right from this house. So let's be careful.
Do you confirm, Honorable Irene, that it also includes rising to the occasion of what are you doing about?
Order, point of info. Pardon.
I'm just confirming, or you confirm to this house, since you have alluded that it is linked to bed matters back at home. Does you also confirm that it also includes rising to the occasion?
Yes, it includes that one. It is one of the same thing. One and the same thing.
Proceed.
Yes, and in fact, in the near future, I'm going to lead a demonstration. It is me who will lead the demonstrations, wanting the rights of our women. And okay,
Point of order.
let me continue.
Honorable Irene, I'm afraid you have to take your seat. There is a point of order by the honorable majority.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. This is not actually a point of information, Mr. Speaker, but it's actually a point of order, Mr. Speaker. As Honorable Irene is actually continuing with the presentation or contribution of the same, Mr. Speaker, from the look of things, Mr. Speaker, she seems to be a victim, Mr. Speaker. So I think if she is the one who is almost leading the demonstration, Mr. Speaker, she needs to explain more, Mr. Speaker. Maybe we will be having a solution before she led the demonstration, Mr. Speaker.
Order, Honorable Lema. Honorable Irene, proceed as you confirm whether you are a victim. Order, honorable members. And let's finalize, so that I can see it's an interesting discussion, so that I can give to a few honorable members.
So because I'm representing the great women of this county, I also have to behave like I'm a victim of the circumstance, because I sympathize with our women. It is so hard. So, in fact, it is saddening, because one, there is no revenue. Revenue collected equals the expenditure. We don't have kids in our county. Our women are crying. This is a real crisis in our county. So what we have to do is to sit and see how these things will be handled once and for all. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Irene. I want to give to, because we, honorable members, we've got other order of business to transact this morning. I will give to the Honorable Amos Perir, and then I'll give to Dr. Naman, and then I'll give to the leadership, and then we can close this discussion. The Honorable Amos Perir, let us be brief. Make your contribution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this chance. Actually, I want to support the committee for what we have done. I was standing because I want to raise something which an honorable member for Jeff Seon. He seemed as if he was using power to force people to drink. We can get revenue even in other business.
But let's allow the Honorable Amos Spirit to complete. Order, Honorable.
Actually,
you are out of order yourself by referring to your honorable member as out of order. That only should come from the speaker. Order.
So you forgive me, Mr. Speaker, for actually collection of revenue we are supporting, because we cannot run the county without revenue. So not only liquor, some other people are working without producing liquor license, and we are not forcing the people to come and to go and drink. But we need revenue. I was only standing because I was supporting somewhere. We are not forcing people to drink, but we need revenue, not only liquor. Actually, my friend, you seem to be serious, but I have said let us collect revenue to support our county, not only in liquor. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
All right. Thank you, the Honorable Amos Spirit. The Honorable Dr. Naman. Let's summarize, because our time is really moving. Honorable members.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, sir, for giving me an opportunity. to also contribute to the discussion that is before the floor of the House. And mine comes to part 3 of the questions that had been raised by the member on the status of implementation. Whereas I appreciate the responses that had been given there, Honorable Speaker, sir, in future, when a question on status of implementation has been asked, it should encompass the following. One, those clauses that have been completely implemented, and then number 2, whether there are those that are incompletely implemented, and number 3, whether there are obsolete versions of the clauses that are there in the Act, and number 4, whether there are those that can be implemented but have not been implemented, and then number 5, whether there are those that cannot be completely implemented, and then whether there is a deprecated version of the same Act. So those are the contributions that I wanted to give towards the same. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, the Honorable Dr. Naman, the Honorable Chief Whip, and then I'll give to the majority, and then we'll close this discussion on this report.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to also give my input on the said report on the legal licensing and probably collection of revenue to our county. Mr. Speaker, if you can go through the report, we've noted that there are several loopholes, Mr. Speaker, ranging across the collection of revenue. And I'm also wondering, Mr. Speaker, that based on the report that we've been given by the chairman on trade, the year 16 and 17, Mr. Speaker, and the year 2018-19, collection of revenue, that is on expenditure, is actually the same. I don't know what could have happened, or could it be some magical things happened, or could be copy and pasting was done probably from the department. Mr. Speaker, if you can check on the collect that expenditure on the same years, that is 16-17 and 18-19, it is 3.8 on 3.807460. The same case to 2018-19, 3.807460. And also when you go to collection to the CRF, Mr. Speaker, it's the same amount. I don't know, could it be something copy and pasting from the department, or probably it was difficult to trace back on the previous years. Mr. Speaker, I think going forward, because based on the collection of revenue, Mr. Speaker, I've seen the collection of revenue in the years, from the year 2019, Mr. Speaker, I've seen expenditures going as high from 3.8 million, Mr. Speaker, to 9.8. That means to the same case to 2021, 8.9. That is expenditure. And 2021, Mr. 2022, it is 10.4. Those are just but expenditures. You wonder, Mr. Speaker, that how on this earth, because usually when you're collecting this amount, probably say 10 million, of course, the cost of collecting that revenue ought not to have gone up to some percentage, Mr. Speaker. So to mean 2021, 2022, we collected 10.6, and what the board or the expenditure that was used to collect that 10.6, Mr. Speaker, is 10.4. So to mean we are going at a loss. Mr. Speaker, the collection has been going downwards. Recently, we collected 121. Initially, we used to collect up to 5 million. That is after expenditure. Mr. Speaker, there is a serious lapse in the same, and I'm still wondering probably if the problem could be a department or the committee that was tasked to collect this revenue. Mr. Speaker, we need to address this issue, because you see, recently we sorted out the problem that was actually hampering Kabianga Tea Farm on the collection of revenue. And therefore, there is a serious problem that we need to look at. Probably number one, we cleared on Tea Farm, now we are in the liquor. And Mr. Speaker, as I summarize, I believe the act is very clear on the liquor licensing. It is supposed to be, I believe it's supposed to be about 3% fee that are supposed to go for the administration. So for here, I believe that 10 million collected and 10 million used is not that 3%. That is my view. Based on the act, we need to crack the whip probably going forward, because this is a clear neglect of collection of revenue. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, the Honorable Chief Whip. I think you have really raised a very critical point I think that was earlier raised by the Honorable Rogon. Honorable Majority, please just...
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Whatever I wanted actually to raise, Mr. Speaker, is what has been raised by the Honorable Chief Whip, Mr. Speaker. Maybe I invite my colleagues. We go through the same template on page 8, though it has been actually raised by my colleagues previously. When we go to page 8, we go to from 2015, 2016, 2016, until 2022, Mr. Speaker. I'll do it very fast, Mr. Speaker. You see the revenue that has been collected in 2015-16 financial year was 12,666,880. They only spent 1,908,050 shillings, Mr. Speaker. And the money that was swept to the CRF account, Mr. Speaker, that is now the revenue that informs or contributes to the budget that we normally share here, Mr. Speaker, is 10 million. The administration fee, as per the Act, Mr. Speaker, is strictly 3%. Now, when you see they collected 12 million, they spent 3% in the administration, and the money that was swept to the CRF account is 10 million. When you come to the year 2017, allow me to jump because of time. When you come to, you see 2017-2018 financial year, they collected around 11,730,000. The administration fee rose, Mr. Speaker, to around 5 million, which is beyond 3%, Mr. Speaker. And this is one, somebody must explain this one, Mr. Speaker. The only money that went to CRF, Mr. Speaker, is 5,779,710. When it comes to now 2021-2022 financial year, Mr. Speaker, I have jumped the others. I know that the members have the copy of the same, Mr. Speaker. They collected 10,633,000 shillings, Mr. Speaker. And whatever they spent is 10,494,000, Mr. Speaker, 530. And the only money that went to CRF is 121,670, Mr. Speaker. It means, Mr. Speaker, these people are eating our revenue. And from this one, Mr. Speaker, we need to make decision now as a house that these people, they should appear before this one, Mr. Speaker. And I had even proposed to a few of my members, Mr. Speaker, that we need, going into the future, amend this standing order, Mr. Speaker, so that we will be inviting these CECs to appear before the House, Mr. Speaker, for them to answer such questions, Mr. Speaker. I think we should do very fast. We amend some these standing orders, Mr. Speaker. They need to be invited. They should be appearing before the whole House, Mr. Speaker, in a session like this, Mr. Speaker. Just like the National Assembly, the way they are doing nowadays, Mr. Speaker, for them to be answering these questions. But I think, Mr. Speaker, going forward now, the chairman of the same committee who brought actually this report, Mr. Speaker, should call the CC and the chief officers, Mr. Speaker. They appear before the committee. It's my proposal, Mr. Speaker, but I know you are having the final word to this, Mr. Speaker. It is just a suggestion from me. They should appear before the committee of the whole House. We ask this pertinent question, Mr. Speaker. Say that if these people are eating our revenues, Mr. Speaker, what is the purpose of you collecting 10 million and you spend 10 million, then you give us 121,000? So I think it is high. This should be actually the high opener to us. Let the chairman of this committee, Mr. Speaker, invite these people, because this is a serious matter and somebody should be jailed even by this, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much, and may God bless you.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Majority. I'm afraid that we have to bring this matter to conclusion. However, Honorable Members, as you have noted, and also from the previous statements, I think there is one aspect of submission of quarterly reports to this House by the Executive, which we all agree that there is a laxity. Secondly, there's whatever you have raised now on the matter of expenditure, as you have seen that trend over the years. I don't know, I've not seen the Kericho County Alcoholic Act on the administration or the administrative costs. However, I want to make the following directions. Number one, that a reminder be sent to the Executive Office of the Governor that quarterly reports be submitted on time as per the regulations or laws that exist. Please note that, clerk, deputy clerk. Secondly, is I direct the Public Accounts Committee to pick up the matter on expenditure of these Kericho County alcoholic drinks and report back to this Honorable House in the next 14 days. So the Public Accounts Committee to pick up that aspect of the Kericho County alcoholic drink, that is the fund account, and look at the accounts and probably report and give proper recommendations so that the executive can implement. I think that is clear. Thank you so much. Clerk, the next order.
Motion by Honorable Gladys Bett.
Honorable members, as you are aware that yesterday the Honorable Gladys Bett gave notice of a motion, and I now call upon Honorable Gladys Bett to move the motion.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for this opportunity that you've given me to move a motion that I had given a notice of it yesterday. Mr. Speaker, sir, aware that Article 209, 3 and 4 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010 gives authority to counties to impose taxes and other revenue-raising powers on property taxes and entertainment taxes. Further aware that Part 2 of the 4th Schedule of the Constitution of Kenya 2010 provides for the functions and powers of the county. Mr. Speaker, sir, further aware that the Kericho Municipal Board and Litein Municipal Board are now in place and their functions are well stipulated in the Urban Areas and Cities Act, Section 20, Part M. Further aware that the Kericho County Finance Act 2022 gives the county a legal mandate to collect taxes from additional revenue streams within its jurisdiction. Mr. Speaker, acknowledging that Kericho County has a potential of generating higher local revenues from property rates, entertainment tax, single business permits, parking fees, produce cess, and market fees. Concerned that the county lacks integration of the single business permits with other relevant revenue functions that hinder the creation of an effective cinch window system. And 2, the county lacks coordination among relevant departments, i.e. the Department of Lands, Housing and Physical Planning, and the Revenue Collection Section. And 3, the revenue in Kericho County has not been collected for the past 2 weeks. Mr. Speaker, sir, and to urge this Honorable House to resolve that the County Executive Committee, member in charge of Finance and Economic Planning in conjunction with the Lands, Housing, Physical Planning and Settlements and Municipal Boards to 1, develop an integrated system which harness all revenue collected in the county. 2, enforce the current existing laws and regulations on revenue collection. Mr. Speaker, sir, number 3, to come up with policies to govern the collection of land rates, to introduce comprehensive monitoring and evaluation systems for each revenue source. Mr. Speaker, number 5, to set revenue targets for every market within Kericho County. And number 6, to develop a system that identifies revenues collected from every revenue stream in Kericho County. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I move the motion.
You are seconder, please.
And to call upon Honorable Hezron to second.
Thank you, the Honorable Hezron. Thank you very much, the Honorable Hezron, for seconding the motion by the Honorable Gladys Bett. Honorable members, I now propose the question that this House resolve that the County Executive Committee member in charge of Finance and Economic Planning, in conjunction with Lands, Housing, Fiscal Planning and Settlement, and Municipal Boards. Number 1, develop an integrated system which harnesses all revenue collected in the county. 2, enforce the current existing laws and regulations on revenue collection. 3, come up with the policies to govern the collection of land rates. 4, introduce comprehensive monitoring and evaluation system for each revenue source. 5, set revenue targets for every market within Kericho County. And number 6, to develop a system that identifies revenues collected from every revenue stream in Kericho County. Honorable members, I now wish to open the floor for debate and I'll request that we give opportunity to honorable members, probably 2 minutes each, so that we can deliberate on this matter. I know this is a matter that is in the hearts of the honorable members. The Honorable Eric B.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute on the motion raised by Honorable Gladys Bates. Honorable Speaker, this is a weighty motion. It has come at the right time. And since, Mr. Speaker, we've been having challenges within the Department of Finance in terms of collection of revenue, I want to believe today this motion will be able to give strength and give light to the Department of Finance. First of all, Mr. Speaker, allow me to thank the mover of the motion, Honorable Gladys, for coming up with this motion today, Mr. Speaker. My points, Mr. Speaker, is directly going to the integration of the systems. We've seen that there are some laxities and caps in various departments, Mr. Speaker, especially when it comes to the collection of revenues from the markets, Mr. Speaker. We've, of late, we opened up several markets, specifically in my area, Mr. Speaker. We have a new market, open air markets, and there is no system, there are no systems which are working on the revenue collection. And to believe, Mr. Speaker, by coming up with this integrated system, it's not meaning we match all this revenue. For example, lands, we call to the Department of Health, we call the Department of Roads, and various departments, Mr. Speaker, so that at the end of the day, we shall be able to account how much revenue have gotten, because we've seen laxity. If there are departments who are working very hard, especially Department of Health, where I'm the chair, and you see, they only look at the Department of Health, and they are leaving aside the Department of Lands, whereby there are some quarries in various places. They are giving out, they are producing maram, and there is no point, Mr. Speaker. The department are collecting revenue from these areas. I want to believe, Mr. Speaker, by coming up with the integrated system will allow us to collect revenue, which is going to help county. Number 2, Mr. Speaker, the third point, Mr. Speaker, coming up with the policies. I want to inform Honorable Gladys Bates, we have policies which we 2019 we passed rating land rates bill 2019, which has not been implemented, Mr. Speaker. And I don't want to believe that by ensuring, by allowing this department to come up with the policies, we already have policies. So what I'm only saying is that we should have an implementation part of it. Let's allow this department to implement the Land Rating Act, which was passed in 2019. And these are the rates which is going to allow, because we found that it was revised. The charges for the lands was revised from 284 to 2,000, Mr. Speaker. And if we implement these rates, it is going to give us a lot of revenue, and it is going to bring upward the revenue collected within the lands. It is a problem in our county. We find that there are some lands which are not paying landowners, which are not paying rates. So they should be able to pay rates immediately, starting from the day we pass this motion, Mr. Speaker. We should be expecting a lot of revenue to come up, Mr. Speaker, within a week or so. And for the last 2 weeks, as it has been said, the revenue has not been collected. But I found yesterday, I saw the enforcement officers and the clerks were collecting revenue within our county, they have come on for. So this one has been overtaken by the event, and it has actually the last 2 weeks, I want to believe, but as at yesterday, I saw them with my eyes. So I want to believe that they should not have that laxity whereby they allow a window of 2 weeks, not collecting revenue within our county. So, Mr. Speaker, without taking much time, I support this motion, and I want to allow to urge this honorable member, we pass the motion so that it work within our county. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you so much. I'll give this chance to Honorable Martin.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity you've given me also to contribute to this motion raised by the Honorable Member, Gladys Bett. Madam Speaker, I'm also concerned of the system in which the revenue collection in our county is carried out. I'm one person also who hails from this town, and many a times, Madam Speaker, I move around even in our markets, our shops, and generally in this town, and I've noted that there is a lot of laxity in collection of this revenue. I want to be very particular in point one that has been raised by the honorable member that this revenue collection should be automated so that we do not have cash being handled by the staff who are collecting this revenue, and in this we can reduce and limit the beverages that can happen therein. So I want to be very particular in this, so that we realize increased revenue collection in our county. Number two, Madam Speaker, I want to raise something that in 2 weeks that has not been, that the revenue officers have not been collecting revenue. I want to urge that it should not really happen, Madam Speaker, in the future, because we run our county by collection of this revenue, and 2 weeks is a lot of time. That is, those are many days, and we lose a lot. So I want to urge that plan should be made, and this should not happen in future, so that we lose this revenue. We cannot plan to spend what we've not earned or collected. So it is because of this interest that we the concerned department should be planning very well, and the noted laxity should be taken note of, so that we realize the increased revenue in our county. Otherwise, I support this motion that has been raised by the honorable member. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you so much, Honorable Martin. Leadership will allow me to you'll hold on a little bit. Let me give this opportunity to who catches the eye. Yes, welcome, Monica.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to support the motion by Honorable Gladys concerning the revenue collection in our county. And I would like to be very particular. That is on point number 5, whereby they have said that we should have a revenue target in every market in our county. There was a time that we visited the Roret market, and what we found there, it is very saddening that the revenue that is being collected, it is not even able to buy a lunch for a revenue officer who is in that market. So I would like to urge the concerned department that it has to set some targets so that whatever we are going to collect, it actually brings some meaning, and it will add us value as a county, because I also acknowledge that our county has a great potential of collecting more revenue in our markets or whichever streams that we have. Otherwise, thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity. I support the motion.
Thank you so much. I give this chance to Honorable Maritim to contribute. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to congratulate Honorable Gladys for coming up with this motion. Madam Speaker, as much as we want revenue, we want also to give these people a good environment. We want these people to do their businesses in a good environment, not to be harassed when collecting revenue. Madam Speaker, you cannot reap where you didn't sow. So it is a two-way traffic, Madam Speaker. Thank you. I support the motion.
Point of order. I think it's done. Honorable Matthew, welcome.
Okay, thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity also to contribute on the same and to support this motion for revenue collection brought by Honorable Gladys Sang. I want to thank Honorable Member for thinking wise and giving us this opportunity also to discuss this matter. I remember yesterday we had a lot to talk about yesterday's statement, but today I think this is a set that will help the Department of Finance and also Trade. I'm seeing that Department of Finance, House and Physical Planning, that is lands, under Municipal Board. Madam Speaker, in my view, I think also this motion also should have add one point in number 7 to be number 7, that also we need to develop a system or areas where we raise targets of collection of revenue. Like now within town, you cannot go to Kapsuser and collect the same amount that we are collecting in this area of municipality. We have this municipality, municipal board. We want them also to use their available resources to recruit more staff and enforcement officers, those who can help the department to raise, to collect revenue. The way Honorable Mheshimiwa Maritim has put it, that we need to set environment for these business people also as well. But at the end of the day, the only thing that will help us to set a very good environment is when they pay revenue and have this thing called business permit. Madam Speaker, I support this motion, and I know that anything that we are going to pass in this honorable house, it will be implemented accordingly. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you so much, Honorable Martin. I give this chance to Honorable Paul B, then Honorable Hezron, then finally majority will wind up.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity you've given to me. Madam Speaker, as I support this motion brought by Honorable Gladys. I really want to recommend what the Honorable Member has done by bringing this very wonderful motion to this Honorable House. Our revenue, Madam Speaker, is an area whereby it should be a concern to all of us. When we do it right, this county will move forward. Despite many challenges we are facing, Madam Speaker, in terms of revenue collections, it's our mandate and our role, actually, as the House, to see all the caps that are there in these revenue collections. I know it's underway that we are planning to automate all the revenue joins because of these caps which are being used by revenue collectors, you know, to swindle what's supposed to be given back to the county. Madam Speaker, some few hours ago, we were debating on the liquor license, you know, joins, and I know this is an area whereby we're losing a lot in terms of revenue. We need to put some measures in place to see that all the joints, all the liquor joints, they remit their revenues to this county. The areas whereby I also want to maybe add up in our livestock sale yards. I know that's an area again we are losing a lot of money, and this is something that it should come into our attention, that most of the areas where we are supposed to get revenue, there are so many caps. We should also get a way of rewarding those who collect, you know, more in our county, that is the staff, by even, you know, giving them promotions or rewarding them in some way. You know, when one does good, let that person be rewarded, you know, in a very special way. Otherwise, I support the motion, and I really want to commend what the Honorable Member has done. Thank you, Honorable Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Paul B. Honorable Wezron.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity you have granted me so that I can contribute and support this timely motion by Honorable Gladys. Madam Speaker, if there is a motion which is timely, I think it is this, Mr. Speaker. And before I contribute, Mr. Speaker, allow me to congratulate Honorable Gladys, Madam Speaker, for coming up with this timely motion, Madam Speaker. Considering that over the last 2 weeks, Madam Speaker, we have been raising a lot of issues concerning the revenue collection. Furthermore, you remember when we were doing the budgeting process, Madam Speaker, and by then, Madam Speaker, you were sitting as the Vice Chair on Budget Committee. And one of the key issues which was affecting us was revenue collection. And it reached a time, Madam Speaker, if you remember well, we had to escalate the projection of revenue collection, Madam Speaker, from I think it was 350 to almost 450, Madam Speaker, anticipating the collection. But we raised the revenue, not putting into consideration the mechanism of reaching the target, Madam Speaker. Now, if we don't support this motion and put the policies which have been raised in this motion into use, Madam Speaker, the rain will start hitting us when we'll be doing the second supplementary budget. Simply because, Madam Speaker, we raised the revenue target beyond the normal collection bracing ourselves that we will put mechanism to collect those revenue. Now, when we'll be doing the second supplementary, if we will not have met the threshold we set that time, Madam Speaker, we'll have to scale down some of the projects, and it will affect us down up to the grassroots, Madam Speaker, because most of these honorable members, when they are in Crown, Madam Speaker, they are telling the common wananchi that I have allocated funds for the construction of road A, B, C, and D. Now that if we don't meet a revenue target, those projects will be scaled down and it will impact on us. So I want to take this opportunity to thank Honorable Gladys because it's an eye-opener, Madam Speaker. Secondly, Madam Speaker, we have talked about the issue of revenue up to a point of contacting the CC in charge of finance, that there is a lot of loopholes in the issue of revenue collection. And all of them has fallen into deaf ears, Madam Speaker. And I think this Honorable House should rise on occasion. And I think it is an eye-opener nowadays, because when we were appointing some CCs and CEOs, Madam Speaker, some of us, we were telling the honorable members, because we were lucky to be serving on the second term, that even when appointments are being done, we rather be objective rather than being subjective. Because we were supporting our friends, but now they have become lazy. They are not performing. So it's high time now we support each other and helping the executive now to realize what they have to do. This mandate squarely fall in the executive, Madam Speaker. But now, because there is no strategies, there is no layout, there is no plans, we need to come up with policies like this to guide the department. And I want to echo what the mover of the motion, some of the resolution which begging the House to resolve that the integrated system which enables all revenue collected in the county we should come up with such. Because, Madam Speaker, one thing I have noted, because I have traversed most of the counties, Madam Speaker, this is the only county which is a free zone, Madam Speaker. If you want to start a business today, Madam Speaker, even with any magnitude, Madam Speaker, you just go, open a business, run for even 5 years without even having a single business permit. You will not get, but when you go to other counties, Madam Speaker, first, before you open a business, you have to notify various relevant department. After getting all the relevant recommendation, you have to go back again and get clearance certificate to run a business. And that clearance certificate is annually renewed. So, Madam Speaker, if we will not rise to the occasion, Madam Speaker, this is a county which will go into darks. Because the rain has started pitting us in all dimensions. Not even the revenue collection, the encroachment, land grabbing. In fact, right now, as we are speaking, in Soin, we are the land nuclear farm, which we used to lease to Moroni and collecting revenue from it, Madam Speaker, has been encroached by Kisumu County. In fact, they have drilled boreholes, they have built ECDs, they are collecting revenue in our farm and taking them to Kisumu. Madam Speaker, if this honorable House will not rise to the occasion and put into consideration some of the policies and some of the recommendations and some of the prayers of the mover of this motion, Madam Speaker, this we will go down into history as the county assembly which has laid down this county, Madam Speaker. And as I support, Madam Speaker, I encourage the leadership of this House to fast-track the meeting between the county assembly and the executive so that we raise these issues, Madam Speaker. The one problem we have come across in this county, the resolution we passed in this House, in last assembly, one CC, who was a super CC, once said, the recommendation from the county assembly is just nothing but rubbish. And I think Honorable Bett remember that that. So I think she was saying jokingly, but after critical analysis, Madam Speaker, I have come to realize that, in fact, whatever she was saying or she was alluding is true. Because all the recommendation, all the good bills, all the good resolution passed in this house has never seen the light of the day, Mr. Speaker, sir. So I think it is high time, and I want this squarely to lie on the leadership of the house, to take the leadership and ensure that the resolution which we are resolving in this house is implemented. Because the majority leader is the head of government business in the house. I want you to take the lead. To take the lead and ensure that we have a way forward on the proper discussion on the prayers of the move of the motion and further recommendation. In fact, it reached a time we were requesting that for us to achieve our potential in revenue collection, we had resolved some time back that we contract the Kenya Revenue Authority to for at least 2 years to come and set for us some of the some working dimensions on or the strategies on maximizing of the collection of revenue. After that, we will follow the system. But all fall into the deaf ears, Mr. Speaker, sir. So I want to support this motion, Mr. Speaker, sir, and more so on the urge by the mover of the motion that she is urging the members in charge of finance and economic planning in conjunction with land, housing, and physical planning and settlement and municipal board plus the ICT, Mr. Speaker, to develop this working program. One of the things which I have come to realize, the first statement we were discussing was on the issue of liquor licensing, Mr. Speaker. And one of the things we noted, Mr. Speaker, was that all the revenues which are being collected by trade on liquor licensing is consumed at source. That is a bad indicator, because if I can collect 10 million and consume 10 million, that will encourage other revenue collectors, even single business permit, to collect and consume at source. So it is high time we have a sit down, we chart a way forward, and we revolutionize the issue of revenue in this country. Otherwise, I don't want to take my time, and I want to support this motion and say we will task whether this house approves this motion. We will, as the chairman of Lands Committee, where the municipal board is domiciled in my department, we will take charge and ensure that revenue is enhanced, revenue collection is enhanced within the municipalities. And when you saw the analysis by the Trade Department, that the number of bars which are in Ainamoy and in Kipkeli and West, especially particularly Kipkeli and West, is 56. It's laughing matter, Mr. Speaker. Because in my ward, only my ward, there are 40 bars. So how can be in Chilgila we have 40 bars, and in the entire Kipkeli and West we have 56? This is a joke. So I think this is some of, and again, the entire country cannot be having 561 bars. No, not at all. Even Kericho alone, Kericho town and Litein, marks almost 500 bars. So I think it's high time we sit down, have a chat on the issue of revenue and task. Because instead of collecting revenue, going consuming or doing rehabilitation, let's say every bar have at least get a license of 50,000. If we have 1,000 bars, 50,000 per license, we collect 50 million. 50 million, 3% goes to administration. The rest we channel to the Nini. So I think I want to support this motion and encourage the honorable members to support this motion. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you, the Honorable
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. And let me take this opportunity to congratulate Honorable Gladys for coming up with such a good motion. I think this morning also we were seeing a way of collecting revenue that will boost the standard of Kericho County. But with my concerns, Mr. Speaker, sir, I know we are able and we can collect a lot of revenue. And the only problem and the challenge that we have to seal a lot of loopholes that this revenue are going through. Because most of the people are collecting revenue and they are using as if it is their personal money. So we have to tighten some of the loopholes that are there in the Department of Collection of Revenue. Number two, I think also we lack competent people who are collecting this revenue, because sometimes they are not up to their work or up to their task. Mr. Speaker, sir, I think we should look for competent people. We should even advance by channeling this collection of revenue to one source. And we should be having a link, automated machines that will reflect the collection from all the sources or all the corners that we have in the Kericho County. And I know there are so many places and there are so many sectors that we can collect the revenue within the Kericho County. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, let us take these things in a serious matter. And I know with the collection of revenue, it will add a lot of development in our county. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
The Honorable, the Honorable Deputy Majority, and then I give to the majority. Then I can now give to the mover of the motion to reply.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I want to support the motion raised by Gladys, Honorable Gladys, and as we had said since yesterday, that for sure we need to have the key performance indicators even to our county assembly, so that everyone should be having targets. And I want to support what Mheshimiwa Maritim said, that the enforcement officer should not be so cruel to the public. And we need to do maybe a public participation so that we read this in the same page with the stakeholders of Kericho County. So I support the motion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you, the Honorable Fancy. The Honorable Majority.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir. I've just rose to support the motion, Mr. Speaker, by Honorable Gladys Bett, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, the motion before the House is very weighty since it touches on the livelihood of the Kericho residents. Revenue collection generates funds that will be plowed back to county for its development. The Department of Finance gave the current sources of revenue to P39, and as found out by the Committee on Finance, it is not exhaustive, Mr. Speaker, just the same way Honorable Ezron has just said, Mr. Speaker. 39 revenue streams is too small, Mr. Speaker, for such a county government, Mr. Speaker. If the county collected its revenue faithfully, Kericho County would have been the richest county, Mr. Speaker. And when you go to the books, Mr. Speaker, that I have just gone through, Mr. Speaker, we remember during the defunct local authorities ranking, Mr. Speaker, Narok. I know if you get time maybe to visit our library, Mr. Speaker. I found that Narok was ranked the best, Mr. Speaker. It was #1. And then it was followed by the Kipsigis County Council, where the same glory when, Mr. Speaker, we know Narok maintained the same, Mr. Speaker, and they are still the highest in terms of
counties collecting revenues, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the local authorities developed measures to maximize on revenue collection, but was disrupted by the transition because from the time we got into the county government systems, Mr. Speaker, the revenue seen in the books, Mr. Speaker, has gone down, Mr. Speaker. Every market had set targets, and every revenue sources was identified through what we was called, Mr. Speaker, RRI. That was Rapid Result Initiative, which worked very well for local authorities. Mr. Speaker, a single day, a Friday, in Sondo Market used to collect under 1,000 shillings, Mr. Speaker. And now we have in Sondo Market, we went there with the governor and the area MCA, Honorable B, Mr. Speaker. They are doing now market 3 times. But when you see the revenue they are collecting in the 3 days in a week, it's not even equivalent to this one, Mr. Speaker, that they used to collect in one single Friday, Mr. Speaker. Kabianga Tifa, Mr. Speaker, used to generate revenue. When you go to those books, Mr. Speaker, it used to generate money that used to cushion the whole county on the months of July and August, when there is when the financial years are ending, Mr. Speaker. The local authorities used to get money from the Kabianga Tea Farm to caution or to pay salaries, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Kericho Town, that is Kikomba Market, on a Thursday could give a municipal council up to Kenya shillings 900,000, Mr. Speaker. When did the rain started beating us, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, the local authorities generated revenue that was used by employee salaries. Kewasco, Mr. Speaker, generated revenue maybe even before the eve of the corona, Mr. Speaker. Kewasco generated revenue that paid employees, treat water, pay bills, and pay the director sitting allowances, Mr. Speaker. But nowadays, Mr. Speaker, even Kewasco itself cannot even sustain themselves, Mr. Speaker. So it means the collection of revenue in our county, Mr. Speaker, and the leakages that is in this, Mr. Speaker, is so serious, Mr. Speaker. And I want to agree with what Honorable Ezron has just said, Mr. Speaker. We had organized for a meeting between the county assembly and the governor and the executive, the top executive representatives, Mr. Speaker. And I still request through your office that we should meet. Say that because these people are identifying very few revenue streams. Look at the joints, Mr. Speaker. In one market called Lelu, in my place, Mr. Speaker, they have around 15 pass, Mr. Speaker. When we are told now in the whole sub-county that it has a total of 56, when Chilchila alone has more than 40, Mr. Speaker, before you go to Kunyak, you go to Kipkelion Ward, one center in my place has got 15 pass, Mr. Speaker. So it means there are some revenues that are going directly to the pockets of the people, Mr. Speaker. So I want to congratulate Honorable Chesang for coming up with this. It will be a high opener. We need to go sit, identify. Each MCA will be saying, will be talking. When we need to put all these things, Mr. Speaker, on a table, say that when they say 56 in the constituency, I'll come up with mine. Ezron come up with this, same to each and every MCA. Then we will know from the 2013 when the county government came into being, Mr. Speaker, we will know where have these people been taking our revenues, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, and I support the same, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you, the Honorable Majority. Now, the mover of the motion, the Honorable Gladys, let's please reply. Motion.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me this chance to reply to the motion. I want to thank the honorable members for supporting and even coming out, up with some of the resolution. And even as we stamp this resolution, I want to add the members that we support it fully. And also to urge the department that is concerned that we have some markets that are used to operate, but as we talk now, they are lying idle. Like in my place, we have a market called Kaitui. A long time ago, it used to operate, but as we talk now, it is idle. And also a place called Kapsorok. I see it operating, but some other time you don't see the people concerned of collecting revenue doing collecting revenue. So I would urge the Honorable House, the members of MCAs, that we identify the markets that are lying idle, and we ask the department that is concerned to open up the new markets so that our county will be collecting enough revenue, and we know that the county cannot run without the revenue. We have also the new markets that have come up. As we know, there's a new market that was opened by our Honorable Eric B., that is Chepkemel. I don't know if it has been, if it is collecting revenue too, and also Sigawet market is a new market that was opened just the other day. So let us all up the game and help this county. We do a good as we help one another with the department that is concerned, so that we collect enough revenue for this county to move forward. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, and all the honorable members for supporting this motion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, the Honorable Gladys Spitz. I now rise to put the question that this House resolve that the County Executive Committee member in charge of Finance and Economic Planning, in conjunction with the Lands, Housing, Fiscal Planning and Settlement and Municipal Boards, 1. Develop an integrated system which harnesses all revenue collected in the county. 2. Enforce the current existing laws and regulations on revenue collection. 3. Come up with the policies to govern the collection of land rates. 4. Introduce comprehensive monitoring and evaluation system for each revenue source. 5. Set revenue targets for every market within Kericho County. And number 6, develop a system that identifies revenues collected from every revenue stream in Kericho County. Will as many as of the similar opinion say aye? Will as many as of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Yes, the Honorable Juliet Pitts.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you realize that we are almost out of time, and we have a very critical motion that is being sponsored by my good friend, the Honorable Ogony, that touches on the health services in our county, Mr. Speaker, and I therefore rise to move a motion of extension of time because, Mr. Speaker, the standing order is very clear that you need to move a motion of extending time 30 minutes before the time elapsed, Mr. Speaker. And our standing orders, number 33, Mr. Speaker, indicates that we need to be here from 9:30 up to 12:30, Mr. Speaker, in the morning session, and from 2:30 to 5:30 in the afternoon session, Mr. Speaker. However, Mr. Speaker, under the same standing order, number 33, 3, Mr. Speaker, that a member may rise up and move a motion of extension of time, Mr. Speaker. And I therefore, Mr. Speaker, want to move a motion of extending time so that we have enough time to discuss the next motion, because it touches on the lives of our people, Mr. Speaker, and we need to get enough time to discuss that bit, Mr. Speaker. And I therefore call upon the honorable member, extension of time, Mr. Speaker, from of course from 12:30, Mr. Speaker, if we get another 1 hour, because we still have another evening session, Mr. Speaker, up to 1:30, Mr. Speaker, so that we discuss using the 1.5 hours, Mr. Speaker, before we resume the evening session, Mr. Speaker. And allow me to, Mr. Speaker, humbly request, Mr. Speaker, the honorable member representing the great people of Litein, Mr. Speaker, who doubles up as the chairperson in charge of committee on ICT, Mr. Speaker, to come and second, Mr. Speaker, this very critical motion of extension of time to 1:30. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Cheriak. The Honorable Member for Litain, Honorable Chairman for ICT, please second the motion. You second? All right. Honorable members, then I rise with the question that this assembly do now extend its sitting time until the completion of the order, the completion of the business that is in this order paper. Will as many as of the similar opinion say aye? Will as many as of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Clerk, next order.
Order number 9, motion by Honorable Kiprotich Rogon.
Honorable members, as you are aware that this motion, the Honorable Kiprotich Rogon gave notice of motion yesterday. Now, Honorable Kiprotich Rogon, you can now move the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to move the motion. Mr. Speaker, sir, aware that health services is one of the default functions as stipulated in the 4th schedule, part 2 of the Constitution of Kenya, 2010. Article 43(1)(a) of the Constitution on Economic and Social Rights guarantees that every person has the right to the highest attainable standard of health, which includes the right to health care services, including reproductive health care. Further aware that the Health Services Department takes a lion's share of the county shareable revenue in each financial year since inception of the counties because of its central importance in our lives. Further aware that both the national government and the county governments have invested heavily in infrastructure of level 5, level 4, level 3, level 2, and level 1 health facilities, noting that this House approved the Kericho County Health Services Act and the Public Finance Management County Health Facilities Regulations to support operationalization, including hiring of personnel and supporting health management committees at the various levels of health facilities in the county, concerned that there are no adequate personnel in some health facilities in the county to deliver health services to the residents of the county, and that some of the health personnel have been on contractual terms for the last 6 years now, thus affecting their morale and consequently poor service delivery. Further concerned that the residents of the county continue to seek medical services and that personnel are not adequate despite the infrastructural development and equipment installed in the various health facilities. I therefore urge this Honorable House to resolve the following. A, that the County Executive Committee member in charge of health services in conjunction with the County Public Service Board and the Public Service Management Department conduct staff audit in all county health facilities and submit a report to the County Assembly within 14 days of the approval of this report. B, that the County Executive Committee member Health Services requests for additional personnel in health facilities that are understaffed on contractual terms to improve on the efficiency as they help in bridging the gap that exists in the health service delivery. And C, that the County Public Service Board and the County Executive member in charge of public service management work on modalities of confirmation of nurses who have worked, nurses and clinical officers who have worked on contractual terms for over 6 years in financial year 2023-2024. Mr. Speaker, I came up with this motion because some of the challenges that this county continue to go through matters health have been things that ought to have been sorted out in the last regime. Mr. Speaker, it brings, or let me bring to this Honorable House a number of issues that I've been able to note as a member of County Assembly ever since I was elected. Mr. Speaker, we have sub-counties in this county, and I can point out a sub-county like Belgut, which has no level 4 hospital. It's a whole sub-county, a sub-county like Kipkelion West, which has almost, it has a level 4 hospital by name, but it is not a level 4 hospital. Mr. Speaker, some of the services that are supposed to be offered in those level 4 hospitals are not offered. A case in point, a simple fracture to anybody around Kipkelion West, for instance, will be fixed in Kericho Referral Hospital, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, just the other day, with my colleague, the Honorable Eric B., we went to a funeral, Mr. Speaker, of a mother who passed on while giving birth. And the reason was there was no anesthetist to be able to attend to that particular mother. The lady had to be ferried all the way from Sigawe to Kapkatet, but unfortunately, because of time, she was not able to make it, and the baby too was not able to be assisted. Mr. Speaker, some of these things made me think about the management of the healthcare department in this county. Mr. Speaker, we have dispensaries in this county. Our dispensaries in Kericho operate only between Monday and Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. I've been thinking, because I'm fortunate to have worked in another county, where dispensaries operate 8 a.m. to 8 a.m. Monday to Monday. So in our county, it is a holiday on Saturdays and Sundays and public holidays in all our dispensaries and a number of our health centers. Mr. Speaker, this is uncalled for. Even with all the monies that have been given to this department, with the lion's share, you know, in our budget the other day, health department takes 2 billion of all the budget, the monies that that are allocated to the various departments, and yet there are no services being offered. The last, Mr. Speaker, so that I call the seconder of this motion, just the other day when COVID struck in the Republic of Kenya, COVID affected the patients suffering from COVID ought to have been supplied with oxygen. I'm thinking that a patient who might have contracted COVID, say from Tendeno Soget ward, and going to Londiani Sub-County Hospital, there is no oxygen. We lost a number of patients because there was no oxygen. The only facilities that you are able to get oxygen is Kericho County Referral Hospital here, maybe in Kapkatet. Even Sigawet Sub-County Hospital could not offer oxygen, Mr. Speaker. Roret, Londiani, for Tenant, Kipkelion, and those, and remember the distance between Kipkelion or even Bureti or even my ward in Sigawet, so into Kericho Referral Hospital, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I came up with this motion because we must fix the health management in this county. We want to see that we want to see the amount that we allocate to this department is commensurate to the services that the residents of this county get from this department, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I urge this Honorable House to support this, and I invite the Honorable Deputy Majority Leader, Honorable Fancy Korir, to second this motion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
All right, thank you, Honorable Deputy Majority. Second. Thank you very much, Honorable Fancy. Now, honorable members, I now propose the question that this House resolve the following: that the CCM in charge of health services, in conjunction with the County Public Service Board and the Public Service Management Department, conduct staff audit in all the county health facilities and submit a report to the County Assembly with 14 days of the approval of this report. B, that the CCML services request for additional personnel in health facilities that are understaffed on contractual terms to improve on the efficiency as they help in bridging the gap that exists in health service delivery. And number C, that the County Public Service Board and the CCM in charge of public service management work on modalities of confirmation of nurses and clinical officers who have worked on contractual terms for over 6 years in the financial year 2023, 2024. The floor is now open. The Honorable Eric B.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, once again for giving me an opportunity to contribute on the motion raised by Honorable Orogoñ, who is an immediate neighbor in Soin Singawet. Honorable Speaker, the the motion itself is important, and before then, Mr. Speaker, allow me, understanding order number 65, section 1, to add an additional amendment. Mr. Speaker, in section C, Mr. Speaker, Honorable Orogoñ has actually stipulated clearly that the County Service Board and the CEC in charge of public service management work on modalities of confirmation of nurses who actually work on a contractual term for 6 years. Mr. Speaker, I want to move an amendment that, and the total exposure for the same is 192 million for entire confirmation of these nurses, Mr. Speaker, not only nurses, but also the non-medic, Mr. Speaker. The whole cost of it is 192, which actually, if we give them through the supplementary 2, Mr. Speaker, they shall be able to confirm fully all this stuff, Mr. Speaker. So I had an amendment that, and total exposure is 192 million for the same. So I request Honorable Matthew to second the amendment, Mr. Speaker.
Order, Honorable Eric B. So be clear on the amendments, the words to be, of course, inserted, and where we inserted.
It shall be, Mr. Speaker, allow me to read. Under C, that state that the County Public Service Board and the CEC in charge of public service management work on modalities of confirmation of nurses whom have worked on contractual term for 6 years in the financial year 2023-2024. And my amendment is, and total exposure is 192 million. And total exposure is 192 million, Mr. Speaker.
Okay.
Thank you.
Order. So, honorable members, I think as you have heard, there is a proposal for amendment. Therefore, the Honorable Eric B. is yes.
My seconder is Honorable Maritim. Thank you.
The Honorable Maritim.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I want to second the amendment by my chair, Health, Honorable Eric. The County Public Service Board and the CCM in charge of public service management. We also need confirmation of other cadres, like clinical officers, like nutritionists, like lab technicians. So we have to confirm all of them. So I support the amendment by the chairman. Thank you.
Order, honorable members. What is it, Honorable Matthew?
Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise to add another amendment to this document. If you can give me that position, Mr. Speaker, I think.
Order, Honorable Matthew. That's the Honorable Majority.
Mr. Speaker, maybe before we move on with all these amendments, Mr. Speaker, as a matter of fact, we need confirmation actually, maybe you will allow the chairman to step out, Mr. Speaker, because as far as I know, Mr. Speaker, the 192 million should be for the whole staffs, Mr. Speaker, not nurses alone. And number two, Mr. Speaker, I don't think we will do an amendment on top of another amendment, Mr. Speaker. So I think it is an observation from my side, Mr. Speaker, that before we do that amendment, Mr. Speaker, it is good we get our facts right, Mr. Speaker, before we proceed. Thank you.
Yes, order, the Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity so that I can inform this Honorable House, Mr. Speaker, that the more we do, the more amendment to this motion, we are actually watering down the prayers of the mover of the House. And noting that, Mr. Speaker, this motion, the notice was passed yesterday. How I wish those proponents of the amendment should have consulted with the mover of the motion so that they defer the motion and come up with a clear, a conclusive motion. So, Honorable Speaker, I further inform, I want to inform the House that through your wisdom, don't allow this further amendment. It will water down, or unless we defer this motion, it go back so that it can be redone and that brought back to the House when it has captured the entire. Additionally, there is no sufficient information pertaining the amount alluded by the chairman of Health. Because, Honorable Speaker, 192 million, you can see it as a simple thing. 192 million in every subsequent financial year. This is a lot. So I think it needs further consultation and further talk over the same before we just pass. Because once we move and approve this motion, it's binding. So I think further clarifications ought to be sought. Thank you.
Thank you, the Honorable Hezron. The Honorable Gilbert Ngetich, what is it? And you are looking smart, the Honorable Gilbert Ngetich.
Okay, thank you. Pardon?
So you are looking very smart today.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for that compliment. I really appreciate the time you've really given to honorable people of Kishara to also contribute. Mr. Speaker, wanted to join hands with the Honorable Emeritus Majority, that is Hezron Ngetich, Mr. Speaker, because I remember last time when we were discussing something to do with confirmation to these staffs, when we are really amending to confirm nurses and also including the other departments, I'm sure we are affecting the wage bill. Before we do the confirmation of the same, whether to agree on confirming nurses alone or the whole health team, let us have a consultation in the effect it will really give to the wage bill to this county. Because before we pass, the moment we pass this motion, it will be binding, and the effect will be dangerous, and we will have no room to reverse or to resign the same motion. So allow us to have a further consultation on the effect of, could be, the confirmation of the team, that is the nurses and the other members of the health department, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. The Honorable Juliet Bates.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity once again, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I just want to inform the honorable members, Mr. Speaker, that motions are just but prayers, Mr. Speaker. And you know, when you pray, Mr. Speaker, it is not a guarantee that your prayers are going to be answered, Mr. Speaker. So these are just but suggestions from the county assembly to the county executive that you can do this and this. It is not a must that they do this because of budgetary constraints, Mr. Speaker, and some other factors. So once we pass a motion here, Mr. Speaker, I can tell you not all motions are going to be acted upon by the executive because they are prayers. And you know, Mr. Speaker, every other time we pray to God to assist us to do this and this, Mr. Speaker, but sometimes your prayers are delayed, Mr. Speaker. So we do not want to say that once we approve here, Mr. Speaker, it is legal. Of course, it has a lot of impact, Mr. Speaker, but it is not cast in stone, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also want to inform the honorable member that when you move an amendment, Mr. Speaker, understanding order number 65.1, every member has a right to move any amendment, Mr. Speaker, so long as the amendment will not negatively impact the mother motion, Mr. Speaker. So most of these amendments, looking at the amendment by the Honorable Chair for help, Mr. Speaker, is an amendment that is trying to give us an information that once these health workers are confirmed, Mr. Speaker, the total exposure, in fact, is giving us information that somehow it will require 192 million to do that confirmation, Mr. Speaker. So it is hurting us, the report, Mr. Speaker. And you know, Mr. Speaker, he holds a very big office. I know he has some of this information. Being a medic, Mr. Speaker, I know before he came here, he was a medic, Mr. Speaker, before he was elected before he was nominated, Mr. Speaker, by the party, in 2017, Mr. Speaker, and then, Mr. Speaker, is now the chair. And somehow, he has information of what takes place in the health service, Mr. Speaker. So personally, Mr. Speaker, I will give him a benefit of doubt as a chair, Mr. Speaker, that maybe that is the exposure that is needed, Mr. Speaker. Otherwise, those are the information that I just want to give, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Would I ask the Honorable Gilbert, and then I give to Honorable Matthew.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Could be to also inquire from the Honorable Cheriot Bate pertaining the prayers we are making in this assembly. It reminds me of the motion I made on the boundary review in that is Chebilat area and Ngoina, in which Ngoina is really giving its revenue to Bomet and that Keridoti factory is giving its revenue to Nyamira, while the land lies in Kericho County. The Honorable Cheriot Bate, you are there. If we really say we are praying, we are losing. Because we want to encourage these departments to make sure that the motions we are really passing are implemented through implementation committee. Let us not encourage them that it is under their mercies that they confirm and implement our motions, Mr. Speaker, sir. If we really go to that trend, Mr. Speaker, we will never have what we are really discussing here to act, Mr. Speaker. Let us encourage this time, Honorable Cheriot Bate, that Honorable Majority, I'm just informing Honorable Senior that if we go the direction we were in, we may end up losing. Let us have a motion when it is passed in this House, Mr. Speaker, it be implemented with immediate effect, not a prayer, say that it will lie in the mercies of the executive, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Gilbert. I think that is of importance to note that all resolutions passed in this House must be acted upon. And I want to believe the Honorable Cheriot Bate, unless you meant that, of course, having passed these resolutions, the executive, through various departments, will always attempt, of course, to actualize what has been passed in this House, and also and maybe get back on reasons why this and that has not been done. So I guess in the spirit of prayers, I don't want to believe this is about the Mackenzie prayers or which prayers, but these are motions, and of course resolutions passed by the House, of course, must be acted upon by the executive. Remember, as I give to Honorable Matthew, I just want to ask the Honorable Chairman Health, because I know matters budget, matters expenditure is a very serious thing, and therefore you shall also need to confirm whether this 192 million, for example, have been factored by the same executive in this financial year, because we next financial year, because the CFSP already has been approved by this House, and you have alluded that the total exposure will be 192 million. Perhaps since he's the chair budget, chair health, I want to believe he has more information. But before then, I want to give to Matthew, Honorable Matthew, and then I give to Majority. Yes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity as well to contribute on this motion. But, Mr. Speaker, I rise to add some prayers on this motion, Mr. Speaker, and I think, honorable members, if you can give me just 1 minute, I can just articulate my issue. And
proceed.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
It's
Speaker.
not the honorable members to give you.
Okay, Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise that this, I amend this motion by adding just one item, that, Mr. Speaker, that the CEC in charge of health services, in conjunction of the CEC finance, to automate public health services in this department.
Yes, the Honorable Majority.
Mr. Speaker, the way I had said, Mr. Speaker, an amendment ought, you see, we've not finished with the first, we've not dispensed with the first amendment by Honorable Eric B., Mr. Speaker. Now the prayers of Honorable Matthew should come immediately after we dispense on the amendments of Honorable Eric P. And further information, Mr. Speaker, is that I'm a member of the Health Committee, Mr. Speaker, and when we sat with the Chief Officer together with the CEC in charge of health, Mr. Speaker, the 192 million that Honorable Eric P. is talking about, Mr. Speaker, is for all the health workers that has not been confirmed, Mr. Speaker. It's not only for the nurses, Mr. Speaker. So I will urge maybe Honorable Eric B. as he moves the amendment, Mr. Speaker, the 192 million is for confirmation of all the medics within the department, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Honorable Majority. You are right about, of course, we've got to dispense with the amendment as proposed by the Honorable Eric P. But I never heard Honorable Matthew talk about the amendment. He talked about prayers. Honorable members, our standing order does not provide for any prayer to be, of course, yes, but depending on how you, but it is very clear. You should speak to what the standing orders is saying. You should refer to it as an amendment and not a prayer. However, the Honorable Eric P. Before you respond to that, of course, standing order number 59, which talks about amendment of that notice of motion, of course, and I can read, the Speaker may permit a member to move in an amended form, a motion of which notice has been given. If in the opinion of the Speaker, the amendment does not materially alter any principle embodied in the motion of which notice has been given. And of course, the Honorable Rogon, I want to believe when you framed this motion, you had particular information in mind, and you will also have to speak to that amendment and see whether it really meets the intended purpose. However, from the other than the aspect of financial exposure, of course, the amendment as proposed does not alter or does not negate the whole motion. So maybe you can substantiate first the claim, the 192 million, and also confirm, because if you read number C, that the County Public Service Board and CCM in charge of public service management work on modalities of confirmation. This is now of nurses and clinical officers, whereas the Honorable Majority is saying it was for, was it medics, all these medics, or health staff in the county Department of Health. So it's important that also needs to be clarified, so that as we make that amendment, we know the amendment that is made. Thank you. And then I'll give it to the Honorable Rogon after that.
Thank you very much, Speaker, for your guidance. I want to believe, Mr. Speaker, the reason why I came up with this amendment is that there should be no partiality in the area we are working on, especially in the Department of Health. Anybody who works in the field of health treated equally, Mr. Speaker. And one issue which we've been facing is the issue of budgetary. We've sat 2 times with the CC in charge and CEO, Mr. Speaker, and we deliberated on the issue. And what they had requested is that if we give them this amount of money, they shall be able to carry on with the confirmation of these staff, Mr. Speaker. The 192 which is a total exposure, will be able to cover up the issue of all cadres. We are not specifying of nurses only or clinical officers only, but I want to believe that if we give them 192, Mr. Speaker, in the supplementary budget, it's an issue of requesting the honorable member to be aware as we as we direct the county public service board to work on this issue. They shall be able to do it without any issue, Mr. Speaker, since we've allocated them 192. So I believe if we allow this motion section C to have an additional amendment, it shall be able to carry on with their works effectively without any problem, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Before Honorable Aragon, maybe Max, something just got in my mind. Honorable members, remember that this is the same house that approves the budget, correct? And other than, of course, and you know, budget, which is a policy document, is never static because of even as you approve, for example, this financial year 192 example, next financial year there can be changes. It can be more, it can be less. And therefore, honorable members, as you have proposed that amendment, I, in my own view, that the drafter of this motion got it right. The only amendment that we may allow is on whether is it nurses and clinical officers or all health officers. Yes, perhaps maybe Honorable Aragon, you can speak about that.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I've also sat through and it took time for me to come up with this. And first of all, Mr. Speaker, before I respond to that, if you look at my first prayer or the resolve, that is the CEC am in charge of health services to conduct the staff audit. For me, first of all, it will tell us how many health workers do we have in this county. And number two, if you look at the number B, Mr. Speaker, I'm actually requesting, or the CEC in charge of health, to request for additional personnel. And why I came up with this, Mr. Speaker, I had a nurse in charge of a facility in my ward. The husband is unwell. So she left the facility to take the husband to Eldoret. That facility was closed for a period she was in Eldoret. The services in that facility was hampered because there was no health worker. And when I contacted the chief officer in charge of health, he was telling me that they are short of nurses. That is why I came up with this motion that we need, for us to have a stopgap measure, we need to have even those on contract again engaged by the county public service through the public service board. And B, Mr. Speaker, I acknowledge the fact that it is true. I'm actually requesting or even urging the public service board together with the public service management, the CEC, to work on modalities. And modalities, Mr. Speaker, encompasses even the budget. So we do not even need to have a quoted figure, because this one is bound to go up or to come down. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to request my colleagues, Mr. Speaker, even as they do the amendments, because this motion is very clear. It is what will go a long way toward addressing the issues that we are facing in this county. So, Mr. Speaker, I can invite amendment that will seek to confirm all cadres of health workers in this county, but not necessarily nurses and clinical officers. We have the lab technicians. We have even, Mr. Speaker, I was approached, and this one I must tell you, the subordinate staff. I was in Kapchanga the other day. The subordinate staff there received the last salary last month in June. She's never received again because the county has not sent that amount. So it is true, the confirmation of these workers will range from all the health workers and even those who are working in those facilities. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Aragon. I think, of course, the mover of the motion is very clear on his intention when he moved the motion, and I think he is in agreement also with the amendments by the honourable members on confirmation of all cadres of staff at the health department. And honourable members, I think for purposes of clarity, then the question now that I propose is as having read it, but now with deleting nurses and COs and replacing it with all cadres of health workers. That is the question that I propose. And now, Honorable Matthew, you head up a proposal of amendment. Yes, Honorable Eric B. You want to?
Honorable Speaker, with me, I was foreseeing a situation whereby the honorable member who have come up with the motion is a vice chair budget. And all the time we've been having a budget, I think one supplementary one, he was saying that we don't have budget for this confirmation. And he actually came up with the motion. So it should be very clear, because if you want to force the Department of County Public Service Board and the public CC in charge of health without any budget, Mr. Speaker, we are not realistic. We should be realistic and tell us whether we are going to get this fund before we move on with the motion, because he's the vice chair. Actually, he was the chair before then. And as he direct this motion to us, the Department of Health, he should tell us very clearly that whether you are going to get money for the confirmation or you are making these things as a joke. So, Mr. Speaker, let him give us a clarity whether we are going to get fund or no fund, so that we can move on. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. I know Honorable Matthew was another amendment, is it? So let's dispense with this matter first. Honorable Rogon, yes, so that I'll make a
thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wonder why the chair health is already getting some shivers with this motion, because one, I'm alive to the fact that the county government of Kericho deserves the best out of the budget that we get, that we give to this department. Mr. Speaker, let us have aside, for instance, the confirmation of these health workers. Now the point is, I have a health a dispensary in my ward that is now offering lab services, and while they offer the lab services, they are getting some revenues out of Linda Mama. Now the county government of Kericho stands to get much if we were to pass this motion out of this. So, Mr. Speaker, the question of, we've talked about revenues a while ago, Mr. Speaker, that we want to grow these revenues. When we grow the revenues, we will have money at our disposal to confirm these nurses. Mr. Speaker, definitely, I urge this House to pass this motion, because we will confirm them once and for all. It is not even our business as an assembly, but it is the business of the executive to do their bid. Mr. Speaker, the chair should, can you guide the chairman health, Mr. Speaker? Because he is a ranking member of this House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Chigwep, and then I give to Honorable Paul B.
Mr. Speaker, I rise also to support the amendments raised by Honorable Chair Health. Though Speaker, we must be very clear on this. I think the Honorable Chair wanted to mislead the House. We cannot fix the figure now that we all know the lion's share of our county allocation budget, over 2.5 billion. And you see, in as much as we want confirmation, Mr. Speaker, I want to bring the attention of the member that we cannot be fixing figures here. Yet the other day, he forgot to capture in the CFSP. So, Bona Chairman, I think we are going to give you, but let's just leave it as a blank figure and amend, as the Speaker has ruled, that we approve for all gathers. And that is, we are in agreement. So, Chairman, next time, don't forget to enter into the CFSP. Thank you.
Honorable Chief Whip, Honorable Paul. And then I'll give Honorable Israel, and then we can now.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Honorable Speaker, I've stood to support the amendments made by the Chair Health, and maybe to ask him as the Chair. There's some few minutes ago we were talking about revenue, collections, Honorable Speaker. We want to ask the Chair Health. There are so many loopholes in the health department. And these loopholes, I'm very sure, if we can all seal the loopholes in the health department, we'll raise funds for the same. Honorable Speaker, myself, I've been going around. When you go to X-ray unit in the Revival Hospital, and you sit down, there's a lot being done, by the staff. That shows we are losing a lot in almost every section in our Revival Hospital, Mheshimiwa Speaker. We know and we understand how our staff are operating in our Revival. Mostly, we narrow it to our level 5 hospitals within our county. Honorable Speaker, if we can only automate every section, I'm sure that will raise these funds to enable us, hire these staff. I'm happy. Down in our wards, we are facing a lot of challenges in terms of subordinate staff. That is the security and the other subordinate staff. Recently, Honorable Speaker, I had to visit the multinationals and these other companies to seek them to assist me in part of their CSR programs to engage and pay the watchmen we have and the other subordinate staff, in which, of course, they were willing. But if we can only manage what we have, I'm very sure with this budget, we shall achieve it. I want to appeal to my good friend, Chair, please, there's a lot to be done in your department. There's a lot to be done, and maybe we'll get another committee to investigate on the same. In fact, even those the suppliers who are supplying the drugs, we need to see how they are being engaged and see way forward. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you.
The Honorable Hezro, so that we can proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I rise on a motion of adjournment or of deferment of this motion, so that this motion is very pertinent, Honorable Speaker. And we don't want to lose the meaning, and we want to kill the motion. So I seek a motion of deferment of this motion, so that the chairman else and the mover of the motion can have a sit down and incorporate, and then we reintroduce in the House, Mr. Speaker. And I ask Honorable Cheriot Beth to second this motion, and Honorable House to support this adjournment of the motion for further discussion.
Honorable Israel, I think we were Honorable Israel, correct? Well, you have the right, but you have, whereas you have the right to, of course, move for adjournment of this business. I remember that we were in the middle of having an amendment that has been proposed, and we were almost dispensing with one amendment, and therefore I'm sorry we have to hold that fast in abeyance and dispense with the amendment as proposed by the Honorable Eric B. And if I got it right, the Honorable Eric B, the amendment now stands that we delete nurses and clinical officers and replace it with all cadres of employees. And of course, the earlier proposal that you had of 192 million, of course, is not admitted. the same page, so that we finalize on that amendment first, and then now, if the Honorable Ezron wants to, yes, the Honorable.
I want to believe, Mr. Speaker, that even if the issues of discussion on the amendment by Honorable Eric B, Mr. Speaker, the one for deferment, Mr. Speaker, because we are still in the old motion of Honorable Rogoin, Mr. Speaker, the issue of deferment, Mr. Speaker, if it can come in, Mr. Speaker, so that we sit with Honorable Rogoin together with the committee on health now, Mr. Speaker, we discuss and come up with a very conclusive motion, Mr. Speaker, on the same, Mr. Speaker, because it seems it is so pertinent, Mr. Speaker, and it is touching the lives of those people who have been on contractual for so many years, Mr. Speaker. I believe Honorable Rogoin, Mr. Speaker, still have that pleasure, Mr. Speaker, because he wanted to end the challenges that is being faced in the same Department of Health, Mr. Speaker. I believe in the same spirit, Mr. Speaker, if we can defer now, and maybe the Committee on Health, together with the mover of the motion, Mr. Speaker, if they can sit, more so, Mr. Speaker, if they have an opportunity to sit in a very conducive environment, Mr. Speaker, they'll come up with a very conclusive motion, Mr. Speaker, that will go far in settling and solving the issues that is being faced in the Department of Health, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
All right. Fair enough. Before, of course, now I give my final direction on the matter. Just want to give you, perhaps speak about what the majority leader said, so that we don't close any form of amendments or any contribution to be made by members, including the Honorable Matthew.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as much as I welcome the deferment of this motion, and I now ask you to give us timeline, because one, Mr. Speaker, and I want to put it before these members, the Honorable Speaker. Why I came up with this motion is because I've continued to see what is happening in our health facilities. And let me give you a painful story, Mr. Speaker. My young boy was unwell the other Saturday. And because I was home, I took him to Rorette Health Center. It is now a sub-county hospital. Mr. Speaker, I did not get the service. That was 3 a.m. in the morning. The boy had to rush him all the way to Greenview Hospital for him to get some oxygen and some treatment. Mr. Speaker, I felt that if I was that voter from Cheptuyet, where I come from, who could not get the service, perhaps it could be another story. I want to urge these members, even as we deliberate on this, it is something that is affecting all of us. I've given you, Mr. Speaker, even some of our sub-counties that do not have sufficient equipment or infrastructure to be able to respond to health issues. And these are the members who are representing them. Mr. Speaker, about the confirmation of these health workers, I have been approached by a certain number of clinical officers and nurses who are above 43 years and who've been requesting me to meet the city and the governor for them to get the confirmation, because time is not on their side. The honorable member and the chair health, who is here, has been a member of this committee, I want to believe from inception. He is now the chair health. Let them get the facts. Come and see me before I reintroduce again this motion, Mr. Speaker. Maybe, and I want to ask you that you give them timeline, because I'm now, they have to appear before me for them to, for me to dispense of this matter. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order on the Borogon. Oh, yeah. Of course, they will have honorable members. I think we all agree that health is a very critical docket for us as a county government. And I want to, of course, appreciate this introduction of this motion. And I also want to put gesture by the drafter of this motion that perhaps we, of course, defer this business and then meet all honorable members. And I want to, led by the chair health, of course. Now, the honorable Rogonya has indicated that he is available for you, and don't have to summon him, but you invite him to appear before the health committee and perhaps add 1 or 2 points on the same motion. But now we have to procedurally, of course, defer the business as earlier been proposed by the Honorable Hazel Nyati. So I now give you a chance to do it in a proper manner as per the standing orders.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity. There is a say which say, what Emeritus see now. Anyway, Mr. Speaker, I come to move a motion of adjournment as per standing order number 64, that we adjourn or defer the business of today so that we get sufficient time so that the team of health sit together with the drafter and mover of this motion and ventilate further and come up with a conclusive motion to be reintroduced in the House. So I therefore, at this Honorable House, we defer the business and the motion of the day until further notice after the same deliberation. And I now ask the Honorable member representing the people of Ainamoi to second this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity once again to second the motion of adjournment, Mr. Speaker, to another day. Mr. Speaker, you realize that the motion of extension of time, Mr. Speaker, we are only remaining with 30 minutes, Mr. Speaker, and 30 minutes in discussing such a matter of great magnitude, Mr. Speaker, is not enough, Mr. Speaker, and I therefore rise, Mr. Speaker, to second that motion that is being moved by the majority leader emeritus, Mr. Speaker, so that we get time. This is a very good motion, Mr. Speaker. The motion that is being sponsored by the Honorable Rogony, Mr. Speaker, and you know, when the Honorable Rogony is the vice chair of a very powerful committee, Mr. Speaker, that is budget and appropriation, when his views is not in tandem, Mr. Speaker, with the views of a chair of a health committee, Mr. Speaker. I know these are neighbors, Mr. Speaker, and I know the Honorable Rogony, Mr. Speaker, is an alumni of the only university in Kenya, Mr. Speaker, the University of Nairobi, and he's a very sharp guy, Mr. Speaker. So I also have some other amendments. So I will go to his office, Mr. Speaker, to also make sure that I give my amendment to him so that when we are coming here, Mr. Speaker, we will have a conclusive motion. The Honorable Matthew, representing the people of Chaik, also has another amendment. So we will combine all those amendments, Mr. Speaker, which I think when we put our prayers together, Mr. Speaker, we will pray to God first before we pray to the executive, Mr. Speaker, to implement, because facts are there, Mr. Speaker. And that prayer, Mr. Speaker, will ultimately, Mr. Speaker, transit into a policy, Mr. Speaker, for health department. We begin from motion. After motion, we go to policy. After policy, we go to legislation, Mr. Speaker. And that is why I was saying these are just bad prayers that will ultimately transit to policy and legislation, which now will be now a must for the county executive to implement the legislation, Mr. Speaker. I support the deferment motion. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Honorable Chair. But now, honorable members, of course, as we have all agreed that this matter be deferred, and I therefore nominate that will be on 2nd May 2023 afternoon session, so that this motion, of course, be again moved with the input that have been factored in by then. And I therefore rise maybe to put the question that this House defer the motion. Will as many as of the similar opinion say aye? Will as many of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Thank you, honorable members. I know we have had a long session this morning. I have some communication to make that came a bit late but urgent. Honorable members, the clerk has requested that we all remain behind. There is a team from Nairobi. These are the engineers for the proposed county assembly chambers. There was a proposal by the honorable members that the plan and design, of course, they looked at, and they are now here, and they have promised us that they will use around 20 minutes to dispense with the matter. I want to request you that you remain behind so that we can dispense the matter, and I know clerk also to arrange for lunch for the honorable members within these premises. Okay. Thank you very much, honorable members. There being no other business, this assembly, this session now stands adjourned until this afternoon.